The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, the maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 6 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS America product lineup includes three-phase string inverters ranging from 25 to 275 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 250-275, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. The 250-275 pairs well with CPS America's exceptional data communication, controls, and energy storage solutions. Go to chintpowersystems.com to find out more.
Just recently we did a big water line and fencing project, just to give you some idea, on a 3,000-acre solar site. It was a $200,000 range cost in construction, but on the back end it was in a $50,000, $60,000 range discount on O&M vegetation going forward. So it was a really fast return, and then this site has water access all over their site. And it was just it was an easy decision for them. So,
are you speeding the energy transition? Here at the Clean Power Hour, our hosts Tim Montague and John Weaver bring you the best in solar, batteries, and clean technologies every week. Want to go deeper into decarbonization? We do too. We're here to help you understand and command the commercial, residential, and utility solar, wind, and storage industries. So let's get to it. Together we can speed the energy transition.
We're here at the Solar Farm Summit. Welcome to the Clean Power Hour. I'm Tim Montague, your host. Check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. Today, my guest is J.R. Howard. He is the owner of Texas Solar Sheep. Welcome to the show, J.R.
Thank you, Tim. Glad to hear
you.
Yes, sir.
So, as we were talking in the pre-show, there's this wave of solar grazing happening in the U.S. You're based in the Texas market. Tell us a little bit about the market and how you became aware of solar grazing.
Sure. A friend of ours, Eli Valdez, this is probably 3.5 years ago, had recommended we look into solar grazing. We were a sheep producer, ranching, things like that. And of course, we didn't know anything about solar. It just, solar grazing to us was just an alien term, I guess. So we did a lot of research. We joined ASGA, Solar Grazing Association, and it spent 6 or 8 months probably doing research, and then we went and looked at the first site that Eli knew about that was up, for a contract, and looked it over and put a proposal in. A couple months later, we were awarded that on a kind of a test basis. We put 500 U's on about a quarter of a 260 megawatt site in Northeast Texas, and it was supposed to be a 6-month pilot project. About 3 months into that, the owners at that site were LightSource BP. They saw, the benefits of that and just said, hey, let's go ahead and work out a contract on the whole site. So we got on that whole site then, and now we're 3 years later, we're, a little over 5 gigawatts and a little over 10,000 sheep on solar. So
there's kind of two industries that are coming together now, right? You got the Texas solar industry, which has now eclipsed the California market in terms of the amount of solar being installed on an annual basis. So huge market. And then you have the traditional ranching industry. So you were doing sheep grazing before there was solar sheep grazing. How has your business changed as a result of this advent of solar grazing?
Well, we're not a big landowner or have access to lots of land. So really for us, there's no way we could have scaled anywhere near where we are now without the access with solar. So we've taken what was a small operation in terms of what we are now and been able to scale it into something much larger without having all that land access prior. So, and the other thing is we've morphed that into, it is a vegetation management business. So we do a hybrid program. We do mowing and mechanical mowing in combination with grazing to meet the site goals for vegetation.
So in a way, you're becoming a full-service O&M around vegetation management.
Yes, sir. We've had to. Initially we got some sheep-only sites, but now basically the asset owners want one vendor to take care of all of it. So we provide that all-in solution for vegetation maintenance for year-round. So we have mowing crews, we have folks that take care of sheep, and then some folks that do both. But we do operate these as a full-time ranch, if you want to call it. Each site, we're on very large sites in Texas, and we operate as a full-time ranch. We have full-time local employees, use local vendors, and try to make that whole kind of circular economy work there, local level.
So tell us a little bit about how solar developers are accommodating sheep. Are there special equipment or accommodations that they need to make in order to easily graze sheep on their sites?
Well, really, we can take almost any newer developed solar site, the way they're building them now, and make sheep work.
Okay.
But there are ways to get involved in the development phase in construction to actually build them where they're more built for grazing. And in doing that, it really is a long-term play for O&M to be cheaper down the road for the operator. So if we're getting involved in development now and are able to put in some water lines and some cross fencing and some things like that assist us in a better grazing program. But on the back end of that, if that's all put in up front, we're able to give them a cheaper O&M rate going forward. So that investment is recouped very fast for the asset owner.
Yeah, my understanding is that asset owners can save perhaps 10% on the O&M cost by using grazers, right?
Oh yeah, on a very large project, we've seen up to 20-25% for mechanical. So that's a big number. And we've just recently we did a big water line and fencing project, just to give you some idea, on a 3,000 acre solar site. It was a $200,000 range cost in construction, but on the back end, it was in a $50,000-$60,000 range discount on O&M vegetation going forward. So it was a really fast return. And then this site has water access all over their site, and it was an easy decision for them. So.
How important is water access?
That's the most important. That's probably one of our biggest costs, is if some of these sites don't have any water at all, water hauling is our biggest expense.
Okay.
So if we have access to water, that just cuts down on what our proposal is for the site. We're lucky in East Texas. Most of my stuff's in East Texas, east of I-35. We do have some surface water as long as they'll leave it when they develop the site. So we do have some ponds and stuff to use. And all that goes into that bid, on what that costs the O&M for the asset owner. So
yeah,
every piece of that helps us, we can be cheaper on the vegetation management.
And what about the species of plants that are planted on the site? Does that need to change in order to properly graze sheep?
Well, they're sending those to us now in development and just saying, hey, does this work in this area for you guys? So, number one, we want it to be something that does grow in the area, something that is going to help keep the erosion problems from happening, and then also something the sheep can control. So we have tweaked some of those seed mixes. These companies have actually gotten a lot better in the last couple of years of finding what that local seed mix is that really works well and dictating that to the construction side. The older sites, they really just left it up to the construction company to seed with kind of whatever they wanted to. And of course, that's going to be probably the cheapest thing that may or may not work. So now most of these owners are dictating, hey, here's our seed mix we want to use, and you guys are going to plant it, but here's the layout of what we want to see.
Yeah. But there's been some give and take on that mix.
Yes. Oh yeah. They've been sending that to us and basically leaving it to us. Hey, is there anything here we need to take out? Is there something we need to add?
Yeah.
Most of the time recently, they've been working really good with local extension agents or things like that in the area that are ag folks that know what's going to work there. And they've got a pretty good mix to start with. A lot better than it was even just 3 years ago.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about the sheep industry. I have strong ties to Scandinavia, where sheep growing is very popular, but in the U.S., you don't run into it a whole lot in the Midwest, where I'm from, here in Illinois.
Yeah.
But what is the status of that industry?
Well, and that's going to be the problem going forward is really, this is the biggest opportunity for the sheep industry in my lifetime is putting sheep back into this country that hasn't had sheep maybe in 100 years. But the problem is we don't have enough sheep, and I think we're coming up against that with solar faster than people thought we were. Even just in Texas, where it's kind of we've got huge numbers of sheep, but we're already running into issues finding enough sheep for these solar farms.
Yeah.
But there is a huge lamb market in the U.S. We're still importing, I think over 60% of the lamb consumed in the U.S. is imported. We just don't have that volume since World War II. That sheep volume's really gone down.
Okay.
Kind of consistently. So, I think the solar is going to be huge for the sheep industry. We just have to make sure that we're kind of getting our arms around it and then making sure we're supplying the sheep needed for this going forward, because it is going to be tough especially in some of these areas like the Midwest, Northeast, that don't have large groups of sheep, and they're building a 1,000-acre solar farm that may need 1,000 or 1,500 sheep. Well, there may not be 1,000 sheep within 100 miles of that area,
Yeah.
So, some of that's going to be tough. There is going to be some supply issues.
And what is the rule of thumb in terms of the number of head of sheep per acre of solar?
Well, there's a wide variance on what kind of vegetation is there, what kind of rainfall you see. I mean, we've seen everywhere from half acre per sheep to 4 sheep per acre. So there's a huge range there.
Okay.
A lot of that just depends on what the prior land use was, how much vegetation you have, and rainfall and some other things like that. So.
Okay. And what would you say to other ranchers who are considering getting in the solar grazing game?
Number one is just understand it is a service business. I mean, we all think of it as grazing, but really we're providing a vegetation management service.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in being in the service business and having customers and making all that work, it's going to work for you. But if you go into it thinking, hey, this is just like my farm at home, I get to, go by all my rules and, all that, you're going to have a little rougher time. So, once we go in these gates on these solar farms, we're working under their rules and that's just the way it is. But I think if they think of it, number one, as a service business, they'll do really good.
Yeah.
If they go into it just thinking it's another grazing lease, I think they're going to have trouble.
Is there anything that you're looking for here at the Solar Farm Summit as a grazier yourself? I'm
just trying to network and share what I do know. We're speaking in a couple of sections of it. The networking is just a big deal for me. Just kind of staying relevant, but there's a lot of ideas here. We've also moved into cutting hay. We're doing some no-till seeding now on our sites. So we're not just doing sheep. We cut 600 round bales last year on solar. So, I think that number could easily triple next year for us. And so there's a lot of other farm enterprises that could go along with what we're doing, but the sheep are just the easiest to get on site. And, once we get confidence of the owners, hey, these guys know what they're doing, the sheep are doing a great job, can we now try to cut hay or whatever that next step is? I think it's really a stepping stone to more options. So I'm here. Hopefully I can talk to some folks that have done some of these other options, even if it's at small scale, where I can figure out how to make it work at big scale.
Yeah. You mentioned Light Source BP. They're doing a lot of solar grazing. And other big developers that you can name that you're working with or have considered working with?
NL just started a huge program in Texas. It's a little over 2 gigawatts, I guess, all in one whack. So that's one of the biggest, probably single deals I've seen. We're a big part of that. There's another operator too. We do a lot of work for SoftBank SB Energy. They're very big. They want sheep on pretty much every one of their sites. So those have been big partners. Adapture Renewables is another good one. I think they're getting to where they're grazing almost all of their sites as well. So
Adapture Renewables?
Adapture, yes, sir.
Okay.
And but yeah, NL just did one of the bigger, probably single deals I've heard of to date. It's I think it might have been 2.5 gigawatts, but it's a lot of land in Texas. And we've already moved sheep on 4 of those sites, and sheep are moving on to 4 more in the next couple of weeks. So
yeah.
But that's a big one. SoftBank's a big one, and of course, Light Source kind of always been the leader, and we got out there first on doing a lot of that. So down in Texas, anyway.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Lexi Haynes. She's now the director of solar grazing at BP Light Source.
Oh yeah,
and one of the founding directors of ASGA, which I know you're involved with as well. American Solar Grazing Association.
Yes, yeah, that's one of the best. For us, for somebody new, that's really the best place to go. I mean, those member pages on ASGA's page just have so many podcasts and so much information. You kind of got to pull out the information that fits your area of the U.S. Where you're at may not fit what they're doing in the Northeast, but it may fit at a different scale. So you got to. There's so much information there though for the cost. It's just that was the best thing for us starting out, with just having all that information at our fingertips and trying to figure out if it was something we wanted to look at or not. So. And I try to help with that a lot. We do a lot of podcasts on there, and I'm on the advisory board and just try to, we had so much help starting out. I'm trying to, especially at things like this, I'm trying to help others where I can, because we need more good people involved. We don't have enough people involved. We don't have enough sheep involved. So we got to try to get the right folks. We just started we did the first solar grazing certification school in Texas this spring.
Oh, wow.
We had over 40 people, I think, at that event. So we did a few days of classroom instruction. I helped I was one of the instructors, and then we went out actually to a solar site the last day and got to look and show folks kind of what all was involved.
So if you're getting in the business of solar grazing, you can now become a certified solar grazer?
Yes, sir. There's American Land Board is putting on a class in each quarter of the U.S., and then there's other actual, separate service companies doing certified schools. So they all go through ASGA to get certified, to get their criteria certified.
Yeah.
And then you can actually go to the school. And I think it'll help a lot of new folks too, when they go to an asset developer and they say, hey, I did go to the school. At least I know a little bit about what I'm doing and what I'm getting myself into. So
sure.
That's always the hardest one, is that first site, getting on the first site, getting that confidence from an asset owner to get started. And once you do, and they see what you can do, then it's sure a lot easier to get work after that. But that first one's tough. So I'm hoping this school will help, at least give them some initial training, know what they're getting themselves into, number one, and then decide if that's for them or not. And then if it is, then at least they have that basis to go off of when they go approach a developer or asset owner,
Well, what else should we know about your business or the industry?
Like I said, I think it's kind of wide open right now. If somebody wants to get involved, that's good at working with people, can manage a service business. It's really we're really still on the front end of it, even though we're a couple of years in. I mean, there's people who've been solar grazing for 15 years, especially in small sites in the Northeast. But as far as large scale, the last 3 or 4 years, it's really blown up, and the opportunity's there. I said, there's no way we could have ever had more than 300-400 sheep on the land we had to operate with. So it's just been a huge opportunity for me and my family. My boys help all the time, and it's just I think it's going to be a good long-term situation for sheep ranchers.
Well, thank you, J.R. Howard, the owner of Texas Solar Sheep. Check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. Please give us a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify, and reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love hearing from my listeners. With that, I'm Tim Montague. Let's grow solar and sheep.
The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, the maker of North America's #1 3-phase string inverter, with over 6 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS America product lineup includes 3-phase string inverters ranging from 25 to 275 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 250-275, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. The 250-275 pairs well with CPS America's exceptional data communication, controls, and energy storage solutions. Go to chintpowersystems.com to find out more.